I'm just playing. Hey, it's your main man, Rick the Dawn. Hey! Anyway, I'm sorry. I'm just too excited. All right, so I just watched episode 3 of The Traitors, and I just wanted to talk about it for those people who've seen it, and also for those people who haven't seen it, because in order to see these episodes, you do have to subscribe to Peacock, which is a paid subscription. So maybe you don't want to pay and you just want somebody to just kind of let you know what happened. That's what I'm here for. First off, this episode is brought to you by Mondo. That is my YouTube like video sharing platform. And also, it is brought to you by the Really Hood Podcast. If you like topics or conversation about topics of all kind, then you definitely want to check it out. All right, so this episode certainly started off with a bang because somebody went home. This guy right here, his name was Bam. And yeah, he was a very low-key player. I was absolutely surprised that they took him out. Okay. This guy right here. Had you told me he would go home on episode 2, I would have said that is not likely because he just was so under the radar. And they made some really interesting decisions and choices and deliberations. So if you don't know, the 3 murderers, Siri, Cody, and Christian, they got together to discuss who they should take out. And my initial thought was Brandi, because Brandi is on to, or was on to, 2 of the 3 traitors. So for me, it was pretty obvious. Like, hey, take out Brandi. She's already said Cody's name, or rather Cerie's name, and she's already said Christian's name. So why are you not taking her out? And more so, moreover, she has a friend that is like this. They're like, they stick together like glue, and that being Kate. So for me, it was pretty obvious. You take out Brandi, and you kind of damage Kate in the process. But Cody, being the really intelligent player that he is, apparently, he's played in several strategic games, and he seems to always do very well. But he kind of pointed out something that I did not initially think about, and that was, if you take out Brandi, it will become very obvious that you must be the traitors because you have some kind of vendetta out for Brandi. All right. And Brandi said your name and then she goes home. It's pretty obvious. So Cody suggested going for Bam because that would create the most chaos. I'll be honest in saying I did not think that was a good idea. I thought going after Bam was the wrong move. And I thought, you always take the easier choices because you might not get that opportunity again. But the next day pops up, and then everybody kind of sees who's still in the game. And we see your main man, Christian, just doing way more talking than he needs to. And, I'm trying to figure out if Christian talking more is a good sign or a bad sign, because perhaps if he stays too quiet, that's not really his personality. Maybe somebody might pick up on that, but he's saying 1 or 2 more things than that's necessary. And that really bugs Cerie. Now, I will say when it comes to Cerie, she's playing extremely quiet. And I don't know about you, but she's not a quiet person to me. I think she's somebody who is very vocal. So to see her so quiet, I'm really surprised by this point in the show because I haven't looked further and I haven't looked at any spoilers. I'm surprised no one has like picked her up as being the person. Same with Cody. Cody's a talker. And I don't know if he's talking off camera or not, but Cody is not saying a lot in this episode. He's like really quiet. So if I'm playing this game, that I guess the quiet players would be the players I would focus on more so than anybody else, because you got to watch the quiet ones. That's what they always say. But anyway, everybody comes into the room and it gets down to the last few people. It's either Brandi or Bam who's going home, and everybody's waiting in anticipation. And then we find out that Bam goes home because Brandi walks through the door. And there you have it, folks. Brandi stays for another day. Bam goes home. And of course, Bam was extremely surprised because he just did not see this coming. He felt like he had played a really quiet game. And I stand by that. I think that the way to go further in this game is to be quiet. The more that people talk in this game, it's pretty obvious. Those people become points of emphasis, right? Brandi was very vocal about Cerie and Christian being the traitors, and she was a big source of contention in this episode. Kate just blasting everybody. Once the elimination was revealed, you saw Kate and Brandi go around and pointing the fingers once again at Michael. All right. And I think, kind of credit to Cody by taking out Bam, it really highlighted Michael because, like I said, if Brandi went home without question, Kate would have went on a campaign saying, "I know who it is now. I know who it is now." But because that didn't happen, I think that kind of moved the target off of Sari, especially. Um, I think where Christian might have messed up because at some point, right after we are, right after the cast members realize that Bam is going home, everybody kind of goes off in their little corners and crevices and start talking about who the person could possibly is, the traitors. And I thought what Christian made a mistake in doing is not playing up the fact that he was upset about Bam going home. If you look at Christian, he was like ready to talk about game. He was ready to talk gameplay. He was ready to talk about, hey, who do you think it is? Who do you think it is now? Wrong gameplay, right? Christian openly talked to Sari and Cody about how big of a friend he or friends he and Bam was. So when Bam goes home, you don't bust a tear, you don't say, "Oh my gosh," you don't get upset. That'll be the equivalent of Brandi going home and Kate like, "Hey, so who do you think it is?" It's not like there's no sympathy there, and I think that is what caused Kate. I want to say Kate was the one who said it. That's what caused Kate to look at Christian sideways because he didn't show any emotion about Bam going home, and I think that was where Bam. I'm sorry, that's where Christian made the pivotal mistake. But anyway, we get to the competition, and now I'm starting to understand how the competitions work. They are there solely for the purpose of raising the pot, and they're not necessarily about winners and losers. Everybody wins, everybody loses, depending on what happens. This challenge is pretty interesting, and I did not anticipate the cast members doing so well. I don't think they missed any of them. But if you don't know what the competition was, half of the group went to a church tower where they had to ring these bells, and then the other half went to a mansion where they had to hear the song and then find the jukebox or the spin box that was playing that exact song, and they had to do that within I want to say 40 seconds. All right, don't quote me on that, but they did great. They did a great job. I think they got every single tune, and I think they netted about 20 to 30,000. I forget the number exactly, but getting back to the gritty and the fun part, we finally get to the round table, and this is where the episode just goes off and goes crazy. And this is the most, probably to this point, the most exciting round table because you have a plethora of different narratives just going on at the same time. Michael was obviously a big source of contention amongst the group. Everyone's upset that Michael went so hard at Geraldine to get her out, and they find out that she's not a traitor. And I think now everyone's looking at Michael saying, well, if Geraldine wasn't a traitor and you were going so hard at her, then you must be the person that's the real traitor. And Michael's standpoint was, I wasn't necessarily calling Geraldine a traitor. I was simply defending myself because Geraldine immediately pinned me as the traitor once Reza went home. So I understood his point of view. But then you also had Kate and Brandi who are way too loud. I think they played the mean girl thing just too much. That kind of that inspired my title. I consider that personality, the kind of personality that they exude, to be the mean girl personality. I think they're on the wrong show. I think that particular gameplay or mindset or the way that they're talking to people that works on Real Housewives type shows. It definitely doesn't fare well here, where being quiet actually helps you out. But speaking of quiet, before I go any further, I want to talk about a couple of the quiet players because we finally saw some of those players get exposed. Okay, this guy is like living the high life. He has no concerns, no worries whatsoever. Rachel was very vocal, and I think Cody is going to take a shot at her the first chance he gets. Cody, of course, this guy, he did have some more lines than usual. I thought he would stay a little more quiet than he was, but no, he was pretty vocal. Stephanie made a huge discovery at the end of the show. Kate dropped a note out of her pocket because Kate and Brandi, they wrote down some notes about who they thought might be the murderer or the traitors rather, and she just so happened to drop the note out of her back pocket. What was the chances of that? And Stephanie seeing that note immediately put Kate on her radar, which I think is going to be interesting for episode 4. This young lady right here, she definitely came out and had more pivotal role. She definitely stood out when it came to the challenge. This guy, okay, this guy right here, pretty quiet overall. If you have to take the entire 3 episodes into consideration, but the way that he calls out, I want to say it was Kate. The way he calls out Kate was pretty epic. I didn't expect him to do that because up until that point, he had been a pretty nice guy, a pretty fair player, pretty like what's the word? Jovial, very nice and happy and giddy. But he turned all that off when it came to deliberations for eliminations. And the way that he went off on Kate, and she didn't say anything back, which is very surprising to me. I think she was trying to be nice, but I was expecting the usual Kate, but she didn't say much to him after that huge bombshell that he dropped on her. Of course, Michael has just been in every controversy possible. This guy, Christian, yeah. Here's the other young lady. She made a point because I believe it was. I want to say it was this guy here. This guy, right? Where'd he go? This guy right here. Kyle. Kyle made a little comment about quiet players, just saying, hey, we don't really want quiet players because if we have all these quiet players, the game won't be fun, and we won't be able to really have open deliberations about who we think the traitors are. And she pushed back on that, saying, "Hey, at least if you're a quiet player, we can hear everyone talk without interruptions." This guy right here is probably playing the best game. He only talks when necessary. He doesn't say much at all. Shelby, I know her name. Oh, it's Angelica. Sorry, I don't know her name. But anyway, she is definitely playing a good game as well. Very quiet. I like her gameplay as well. She's been very, very quiet. This lady right here, this is Amanda. Correct. All right, I don't know the names of the people yet because the game is still very young. It's still like what, episode 3. But again, Kate and Brandi get called out, and again, this guy, I don't know his name, and I need to learn it because apparently, if he has those kind of chops, Quentin, right? If he has those kind of chops to call out Kate, the mean girl, I thought that was pretty outrageous to do that. And the way he did it was pretty awesome. But he was wrong, though. Obviously, Kate is not a traitor, and his assessment was wrong, right? But anyway, you get to these huge, huge arguments back and forth. Brandi and Kate are adamant about the fact that Michael is the real issue here. And then they vote. And this was the most wide margined vote I've seen on a competitive show. This is not Survivor or Big Brother where everyone seems to vote in clusters. I mean, I believe Michael got 5 votes. I believe that Kate got 4 votes, and of course, what's her name? Brandi got 7 votes, if I'm not mistaken. So definitely no cohesion amongst the bunch. But anyway, we already know that Brandi goes home, and I thought this was well played, and it definitely goes back to the beginning of the episode when Cody jumps in and says, let's not get Brandi out right now. Let's go ahead and throw a little bit of confusion into the group. And I don't think Cody, when he said that, he was anticipating that Brandi would go home via the Faithfuls, right? So that was a huge win for the Traitors because they get Bam out, right? But then they also get Brandi out. And guess what? I don't know what happens, but when the Traitors deliberate, they should murder Kate because that would absolutely place all eyes on Michael, right? But if Michael gets voted out next, I think that's where you'll start to see Christian become a bigger focal point because um, think about it this way. Brandy's gone, and if the Traitors murder Kate, that's going to put all eyes on Michael. And once they realize that Michael's not the one who's a traitor, once they vote him out, obviously, then it's going to be like, okay, then who is it? And I think Christian at that particular point is going to stand out. You can make the argument that it might be smart to keep Kate just to remove suspicion, and that would at least buy the Traitors 2 more go arounds because if Kate survives, okay, she's gonna be very adamant about Michael and maybe even say the reason I'm here, Kate saying this, is because Michael doesn't want to come across as the obvious, traitor. So I think Kate would continue to gun for Michael, and once Michael was put on the block and doesn't go home, all the eyes go on Kate. So you can say there's a system here. You take the loudest person and you spare them. And every time you spare the loudest person, you're pretty much buying yourself another round. So Brandi was the loudest person up until this point, but they spared her and taken out Bam. And then Brandi ended up going home anyway. Now the second loudest player is Kate. Maybe they spare Kate and take out somebody like Amanda. She goes home. Kate stays in. She might be the next one to go. Then you see, I think in order to stay safe, they have to keep a buffer right above them. They have to have somebody that's a bigger threat than them. And this is what I was worried about. If they take out Kate tonight, that would put all eyes on Michael, which I believe he'll get eliminated by the faithfuls. And then there's no more shelter. There's no more buffer. And I think that's why they might have to consider keeping Kate. But anyway, what did you think about this episode? If you saw it, if you did not see it, what did you think about my breakdown? Did you think it was pretty, like, telling? That you were you able to visualize what took place in the episode despite not seeing it? Because if so, that means I did my job. But anyway, thank you for watching. And when I check out episode 4, and I'm actually pretty excited because I feel like the show is starting to heat up. But when I check out episode 4, you better believe I'll be right here and I'll let you know my thoughts on it. All right. But anyway, thank you for watching. If you did like it, please subscribe and I'll holler at you. Peace.